DeShaun Foster's wish list continues to grow. What can he get out of the portal now that injuries and transfers have taken their toll?
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever you get your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for your support. If you're an everydayer grinding through this tough season where the fall and winter sports are pretty much to a close, we're getting there. It's portal season. It's crazy. We are here with you guys. And this episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. That's right. I've got a competitive side. I'm sure you do too. And to be a big fan, all you got to do is go play some Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on the classic Monopoly. Join your friends, download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store and Google Play Store. Where we start today, though, UCLA, DeShaun Foster and the Bruins are going after players in the portal. He made that clear last week. Prior to spring practice, he was like, you know what? I got a wish list, and had quite a bit of laundry list. He had a long list. And then guys kept getting hurt. There's 3 separate UCLA players he listed, including a very important Hudson Habermill, which really led the team to be distraught after his torn ACL happened in practice. That was a lot of injuries. So the Bruins needed some depth in the tight end room. They already need some depth on the D-line, other spots, maybe another quarterback to back up Garbers. I know Martin's been competing for the number 2 spot, but just to shore up what could be a pretty thin QB room in terms of experience behind Garbers, right? And then the news on April 18th that broke was that Jay Tuia was not there at practice. And everybody's like, uh-oh, that means the portal's open. He's not hurt. What does that mean for somebody with some eligibility? Then he puts out on social media, he's going to graduate from UCLA, and he's going to explore his options and head into the transfer portal, which is huge. The Bruins already lost Shea Bryant-Strother. They've lost a lot of talent, mostly to the draft for the D-line, with the Murphy twins gone, the Latu getting first-round hype. And that was already a line that was trying to replenish itself, a coach and its defensive coordinator, and then everything's going crazy, and now DeShaun Foster really has to get after it in the portal. An empty presence is going to be felt because Tuia is gone, right? He started his career actually at USC from Inglewood, went to Grace Brethren, and last year, 18 tackles, solo, 10 assisted, 28 total, had 4 tackles for loss, a sack, and was somebody who the Bruins are going to count on as a 6'3", 325-pounder in the big force in the middle of the D-line that is just not going to be there. So you're trying to fix the edges where Foster and the defense were trying to go after, get some pass rush on the side. Maybe you can mask that with Femi Oladejo to go run on the edge. Maybe get a linebacker, get some pressure up there. Use some schemes to fix the holes the defense has this year based on talent leaving. And yet, now he's got to go after a huge piece in the middle of the D-line. Tuia's gone. Shea Bryant-Strother, the only returning D-lineman on the edge with experience, gone. So this is going to be a very inexperienced defense, which is very tough to say after the Bruins had a defense that was pretty experienced, played very well under Danton Lynn before he jumped ship and went across town, and was already going to lose quite a bit of talent to the draft, and now it's losing it to the portal. It's not unheard of because the Bruins already saw a player come back and withdraw their name from the portal, hence Keegan Jones. I believe DeShaun Foster talked about him very recently in one of these spring practices. So it is possible you might see these guys, but that wish list is getting longer and longer, and I wonder how much the Bruins are going to be able to fill this, right? This is a team, certainly, you hope the driving force is Eric Bieniemy's offense, where they can run the ball, be strong up front. I know he would like another tight end, offensive lineman, maybe a quarterback, not specifically to challenge Garbers, but to fill a role in case there needs to be that option later down the line. And most importantly, the receiving room is pretty stacked. This inaugural season, the Big Ten, hopefully will be led by UCLA offense. If it is not, it will be a brutal season. I would like to think this team can certainly compete with the schedule it has. No Michigan, even though they're going under coaching change with Sharon Moore. You've got Ohio State. You've got some teams that can certainly compete in the Big Ten. And with a tough non-conference matchup at LSU and some tough road games this year, like at Penn State, at Nebraska, I still think UCLA can compete, but defensively they are very thin, and they do need a couple more pieces offensively to be a complete team. And I wonder where Foster is going to go. I went and looked at the D line, went to the edge. There are some talented defensive linemen in the portal. There's lots of talented guys jumping into the portal this very minute that we don't even realize right now. But I do think UCLA, solid running back room, receivers good, starting quarterback there. They do have a tight end coming back who is still very talented, and they can probably find somewhere on the roster how to move it along and move the football up and down the field with Bieniemy's brain and his offensive genius. Hopefully brings that to Westwood and Pasadena, and the Bruins can sling the football, run it down some teams' throats in the Big Ten. But the wish list, man, oh man, DeShaun Foster, goodness gracious. It grows and it grows. You mix in the injuries, 3 ACL tears, and a couple of key transfer guys for guys who are probably going to get some big-time looks with experience heading into next year. So I wonder how much of that has to do with NIL, especially for UCLA's football side of things, and how much is it disgruntled players who I wonder, you're going to get some PT. Were you really not playing up to par in spring practice and you're going to lose that opportunity as the leading experienced guy? Generally, in most circumstances, if you're the leading most experienced guy, not just by taking reps, right? Because Garbers last year, if you're going to use the quarterback example between him and Dante Moore, was the more experienced guy, went into the season as the starting QB, went back and forth before stealing that role, not stealing, but earning that role back. But when it comes to other places like the D-line and secondary, guys are going to earn themselves with a leg up in spring practice with experience. A coach who had been on the coaching staff and then elevated to head coach, so hopefully some relationships there. And now the guys are just leaving. Now it's not a complete exodus. You've seen a lot of teams in various sports where their teams are just completely dismantled because of the portal. That's not what UCLA is. Their defense somewhat is, but that's more because of the talent leaving to the NFL draft rather than it is leaving because they don't like DeShaun Foster, other than the secondary leaving, going to SC because of Danton Lynn. I wonder where we're going to go. But the list gets even longer. Because Sean Foster said, I need this, and this, right? D-line now, tight end, maybe another quarterback, and then best available. And he's got to go around the entire D-line. Would love another tight end. Quarterback, probably not a need at this moment. That's just probably extra. And then best player available. And hope he is versatile enough to help fill the weaknesses in the holes in this UCLA roster. That DeShaun Foster, it's so late in the recruiting cycle, he doesn't get 2 transfer portal windows to work with. Because it happened, Chip Kelly left so late. This is why I recorded an episode saying it would be a little bit of a disaster if Chip leaves now. Now, I do like the DeShaun Foster hire, regardless of whether you think it was the cheap move, it's the whatever move. There's a different energy and buzz, whether there's a Friday night lights practice, the return of the spring game, upfront information. There's a clear different vibe. But the disaster portion isn't that he's not the right man for the job. It's how many years back has UCLA been pushed back because of Chip Kelly's negligence recruiting. It took me a while to see it and understand it, but him leaving, this is where DeShaun Foster, if he was given the opportunity, maybe he wouldn't have been hired if it was earlier, but that's not what we're dealing with. If he had 2 transfer portal windows, he could go twice. He can go shopping twice as much. At this point, he doesn't have that. He's got the guys who are coming in, maybe taking a scholarship or 2 away from guys that he's going to change his opinion on, whether it's as simple as the long snapper, Ryan Wilkins from Elon, and then to replenish guys who are leaving. He does not have that much time to flip the switch and change it for this fall of 2024. And this is where the Chip Kelly leaving so late is going to bite UCLA in the butt, because they could have fired him in November and had a team that was supremely talented, whether it was DeShaun Foster coaching or not, with 2 portals to see guys leave and bring guys in and change up that recruiting class. That's not what they have. There is some experienced talent. I like the coaching staff. Now the Bruins just have to go get the couple of pieces they can get to fix some of the holes on their roster. There's certainly a little bit of D-line talent that they're just going to have to live with if they can grab a guy in the portal but they can't address, I think, every single one of Foster's wants and wishes in the portal. And that's never going to happen in this day and age, right? You can always get better, more, and grab more. But until UCLA gets a better NIL support continually for football, because now you look in Virginia in the state of Virginia, they're trying to challenge a law or schools can directly pay athletes. So UCLA not only is trying to get the NIL to another level, and this is where Chip was also right on something. The NIL is not supposed to be where you pay players directly. It's supposed to be endorsements and making money off an autograph and getting paid to do endorsements. But now UCLA is not only trying to catch up to the schools that are not directly paying their athletes, they're going to have to catch up to schools probably in other states, certainly on the East Coast maybe, where if this new legislation passes, they might have to pay their athletes directly, and we're not even at the bare minimum of the NIL part yet. That is where the Bruins have to get in the portal, in recruiting, and bring everything up to speed for DeShaun Foster. That is what he is dealing with now. So that's all we got. But Mick Cronin doesn't have that much of a problem, I believe. It looks like the Midwest, everything, the NIL for basketball growing a little bit, and Cronin has been surging through the portal. What's next? What do they got? And it's official. They announced the signings. We'll talk about that next on Locked On UCLA. When it comes to your financial future, you think you've done it all. You've saved, researched, invested all that you can, but now it's time to take those investments to the next level by using what every financial great uses. That's Yahoo Finance. Because for more than 25 years, Yahoo Finance has been the brand behind every great investor. Even if you're seasoned, looking for that extra guidance, Yahoo Finance gives you all the tools and data you need in one place. Securely link your brokerage accounts for a unified view of your wealth, including 401k and other investments. Comprehensive perspective is what sets apart great investors and how Yahoo Finance ensures the insight to look at your wealth in its entirety. For comprehensive financial news analysis, visit the brand behind every great investor, yahoofinance.com, the #1 financial destination, yahoofinance.com. That's yahoofinance.com. All right, second segment, we're going basketball here, hitting the hardwood. The Bruins have officially announced the signings of 3 UCLA transfers coming in. We've already talked about it. Skyy Clark, Kobe Johnson, Eric Dailey Jr. It's pretty quick how that works. Mick Cronin already commenting, and there's still probably more to come. But let's read and discuss what Cronin's comments have to say about his incoming players, one from Louisville, one from SC, and the other one from Oklahoma State. So this is what Mick Cronin verbatim had to say specifically about these Bruins. We are excited to be adding Skyy, Eric, and Kobe to our program, says Mick Cronin. We are familiar with all 3 of these young men, and they are going to be important players for our team. Our staff had recruited Skyy when he was in high school. So this is a long established relationship for a kid who eventually went to Illinois, who had then transferred to Louisville, and then now comes to UCLA. They recruited Skyy in high school, and we know he's a dynamic guard who can score and distribute the ball. Okay, let's pause. Mick Cronin was looking for somebody. I know there's baggage with the 2-time transfers, and I've tried to read different things about whether it's an attitude, whatever the problem or lack thereof, not sure that there is a problem, but early in the career, 2 transfers, and this is only a recent thing with 2-time transfers, is that baggage, or is he trying to make a better bang for his buck in today's NIL deal and get to a better place, like most players in this transfer portal era are? So what is Mick Cronin doing? What did he need? Guy who can score, who can shoot the ball better than anybody on his roster probably, and share the basketball. His numbers aren't the best distributing when it comes to turnovers, assist-to-turnover ratio, but Clark comes in and he can shoot and he can score the basketball. Cronin clearly UCLA needed more guys who could do that. Because if the Bruins don't have guys who can get the ball in the basket by themselves, it can be tough to watch when they're not running continual, strong offensive sets with guys that can always get themselves shots off the dribble. Then he talks about Eric, and we're talking Eric Dailey Jr., not the incoming Eric Freeney. So Eric is a big guard built in the Jaime Jaquez Jr. mold. Rebound like a big, but he's a young man with guard skills and a big, strong body. So I know I've talked about Dailey thinking about a 5. Cronin specifically says he's a guard in a big man's body. Jaquez, who could play a 3, probably for UCLA, play a 4. And I still am convinced Cronin may use him as a 5 if need be, and might try it out for a small period in the non-conference in the 24-25 season before Big Ten play comes. Then Cronin had this to say about Kobe Johnson. Kobe has made really strong strides in each of his last 3 years in college, showing that he can be an impact player. He is a smart, tenacious athlete, especially on the defensive end. And he also provides versatility as a scorer and distributor. We will lean on the experience of all 3 players, and we're looking forward to getting them on campus. What does he have to say about Kobe Johnson? What he's clearly saying is he wants another leader in that locker room. So much so that he goes to his bitter rival school, although rivalries are a little watered down. Let's be real, watered down in the portal day and age because guys can go back and forth. And in LA, if they're not going over the East Coast, going to the Midwest, they're just probably hopping from UCLA to SC or going up north to Gonzaga if you're playing basketball. They're really bouncing around locally, whether it's football, basketball, a couple other sports, right? But still, to rival, you get your opposing team's captain and bring him into UCLA, bring him to Westwood. And what does he need? Well, Cronin needed scoring. He wanted more athleticism out of the 4 spot, potentially could slot Dailey in the 5, but more of a 4, bigger 3. And then you bring in Kobe Johnson, who's a very big guard, 6'6"? Defense. Cronin has his calling card on defense. So good Lord, he wanted somebody with athleticism who could play defense. I'm not sure about the defensive intangibles yet about Clark. I've read about the potential of Dailey Jr., but without a Dembona, he wanted to make sure somebody on the wing can guard who is in front of him, and that is Kobe Johnson. And not only guard, but can play both sides of the floor, because you can't just go get an elite defensive stopper and bring him onto a UCLA team that couldn't shoot and score the basketball consistently. No, Kobe Johnson, that is, can score 10 points per game, hit his shots, hit his timely threes, and has developed over his years at USC. And while we've already talked a little bit about each of these guys when they've come into UCLA, from Clark to Johnson to Dailey, there's still more to be had. Well, you see some of the package there: a scorer, an athletic 4 to 5 who can also shoot, a defender who can also shoot. And Bro Report, now we're pulling away from Mick Cronin comments right now, has been pretty adamant about the possibility of UCLA bringing in Dominic Harris from LMU, who is a legitimate shooter. Deep in his career, would be a 2-time, I believe, transfer, who could shoot the lights, the daylights, out of the gym, compared to UCLA's roster last year. So you bring in scorer, athleticism, defense, shooter. Boom. Those are 4 things UCLA couldn't get. And almost all 4 of those guys can do a little bit of everything, but are getting an emphasis on certain weaknesses at specific spots that Cronin is nailing in the portal. And while the LMU transfer is not official, and I'm leaning very hard on the Bro Report reports here, UCLA clearly needed a scorer. And it could have been different guys. I know UCLA was looking at Clark or somebody from, I think, Missouri State. They were looking for guys who could score, distribute, shoot, and play defense and be physically gifted with some athleticism. That is what Dailey Jr. brings to the fold. And now Cronin is bringing it all in, all together. And now UCLA has to bring in one more, a big to replace a Dembona. And now there's, I've seen guys in the comments poke, hey, there was a big from Rutgers. And for a little bit there, before Umar Ballo, I believe, announced his intentions, I flirted initially when Ballo had put his name in the portal. Ballo, but now I wonder who's actually going to be in the mix for center if Cronin really goes after somebody in the center market in the portal. Who's the big name? We'll find out. We'll dig in, which is why you stick with us here on Locked On UCLA. We'll talk about it throughout the rest of the week and the weeks to come, because UCLA, they've got a lot of gelling to do. It's a new terrain. They're attempting to capture the hearts and destroy the fan bases of the Big Ten now, and prove that on national television at much better times, on much easier to watch channels, that UCLA is a national brand and a blue blood still to this day, and that Cronin wants to get that elusive national championship, and we hope 24-25 is the year. He's going after guys. Cronin is coaching and recruiting in the portal like a man possessed. And I think the team might showcase it next year if they have any sense of camaraderie, gelling together, and just a sniff of talent, just a whiff of talents. They could be very dangerous next year if Cronin fills in the roster and gets the pieces he needs to be successful. Speaking of successful, there's nothing more successful than an athlete who stays her entire career, any athlete, but this one specifically, and gets drafted like Charisma Osborne. So we're going to wrap up this show, talk about Osborne getting drafted in the WNBA and kind of saluting her on her awesome career at UCLA over 5 years. Next on Locked On UCLA. All right, I got a huge announcement for you guys. I'm trying to track these leaderboards and keep my eyes on the scores because I want to get to the top at some point. I'm getting there. I'm working on it because that's right. I'm talking about the hit mobile game Monopoly Go. You've probably heard about it. It's a great mobile twist on the classic Monopoly. You can play it anywhere, anytime. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. Explore hundreds of Monopoly boards. Vegas, Camelot, the moon. We are going to steal the moon. Maybe not exactly, but you get the reference. But we're talking about raking in a huge fortune because you can charge rent on iconic properties. Like classic Monopoly, you can charge your friends on iconic properties, go after Monopoly money by pulling bank heists, taking wrecking balls to landmarks, all because you're playing Monopoly Go. The favorite part is the leaderboards where you can see who is a Monopoly tycoon and who is gone bankrupt. So go get yourself on the charts. Download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store and Google Play Store. All right, third and final segment. We're giving a salute to Charisma Osborne, who was drafted in the most recent WNBA draft, heading to the Phoenix Mercury in the third round, I believe, the 25th pick for the WNBA draft, a Mercury team that did not have any first or second round picks, traded their number 3 pick away to the Chicago Skyy, who had that middle pick just before and after the local Los Angeles Sparks had the 2 and 4 picks. All the talk was looking at who would go number 1 through 5. We all knew who would be going number 1 in Skyy Clark, but Charisma Osborne is our focus today because why not give some love to the Moreno Valley native, 5'8", 5'9", graduate guard, played 5 years, started every game of her final season at UCLA, scored a team-high 474 points, led the team in steals, 89% for the free throw line, led the conference, second when it came to points per game, fifth when it came to rebounds per game on the team, 32 points with a season high against Cal. This was somebody who was elite. All time for UCLA when it comes to three-pointers made and attempted. When it came to games played, games started, I think those numbers with the COVID numbers are super boosted. So I think Osborne is going to be in the record books for years to come. And with her not having to carry so much of the UCLA offense with Betts on the roster, with the big jump forward of Kiki Rice and everything in between, you could see when she could shoot and get there, Osborne still was very comfortable. All Pac-12 defensive team, all Pac-12 by the media and the coaches, AP All-America honorable mention. So she's getting loved by in a super conference in its last year in the Pac-12, anywhere from UCLA, SC. Think about the guards in this conference. Yeah, we know Skyy Clark's a baller, but remember the Pac-12 has elite talent up and down the coast before it broke up into many different pieces and splintered away, right? So she's getting that much love when arguably, when you're looking at national talent at the guard position, besides a Paige Beckers, besides a Skyy Clark, in the conference in its last year alone was mostly nationally ranked up and down the conference, depending on the guard, point guard, shooting guard positions. Extremely talented, tough matchups night in and night out, offensively and defensively. So I think despite her being a third-round pick, she can certainly make her name known in the WNBA. Now, is that going to be a superstar? Is that a role player? Is that simply making the roster, which is very hard to do for WNBA draftees? That can be tough. I'm not saying that won't be tough for Charisma Osborne, as talented as she is, but I hope she has a long, illustrious professional career. Love to see in the WNBA. A lot of these female basketball players do have to go overseas. We'll see what the Skyy Clark mania brings to the professional basketball on the women's circuit in the U.S. Does that expand everything? Does that make it another team, which make it an expansion team? Do they guarantee more roster spots, right? And that's where she has to fight for her spot as a third rounder. But I think with the aging Mercury, I would like to believe that Osborne, with her tenacious defensive mindset, her ability to shoot, her scorer's mentality, she certainly has a shot to make an impact on the Mercury or however her career ends up, because she is a Bruin great, will be a long time top of the list for many of these categories, if not forever, when it comes to games played, games started, three-pointers made in a career, right? She is close to the top of every UCLA leaderboard, so we like to congratulate her. Every athlete's dream, right? Make it to the professional rank. Some just want to play college, have a great moment in high school, and then there's others who are elite through high school, elite through college, and get to live out their dream. So we hope that for Osborne, and it's great to see her get called to be drafted by the Mercury. Now the next step, work, and make that team and make a playing role consistent for her. We'll see how that plays out, because it's tough when you reach the pros. It's not always guaranteed, even for the best of players coming out of college. So that is her next challenge, and I'd like to believe she can ace it. Which, you know how you can ace this episode? Download it, like it, subscribe it, share it, comment, review. Thanks for your support. We're going to wrap up this episode. We'll talk more transfer portal nonsense and excitement when it comes to UCLA football and basketball, everything in between here on Locked On UCLA. So get your hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. It's Zach signing off. Go Bruins.